Recently, a neighbor gave me some sourdough bread. Man, it is so good. And as I partake of it, I'm reminded of a story in the Bible where Jesus told his disciples, or he said about his disciples, that they had forgotten the lesson of the loaves. So I ask you, have you forgotten the lesson of the loaves? It'd be helpful to understand a little bit of the background. You can read about it in Mark chapter 6, starting with verse 30 through about verse 52. In fact, there's two stories. In fact, the stories, the history is the disciples had been out doing all kind of work and ministry. They came back to God, and God says, look, you need to take some time to come away to a desolate place by yourself and rest. That's the first way to remember the lesson of the loaves, is getting some time away just with Jesus, by yourself or with a small group, just time to reflect and rest and relax. So they got in a boat and they went out on the water. And the people saw them going across the lake, and so the people ran ahead of them to get to the place that they were going before the boat got there. So evidently they had some time on the lake with Jesus, and it doesn't say exactly what happened, but they were resting. They got to the other shore. Jesus got out of the boat. The crowds were there, and he had compassion on them, so he started teaching them. And evidently he taught them for quite a while, because it was becoming evening and the disciples were concerned. They said, we need to dismiss the people so they can go into the surrounding countrysides and find something to eat. And Jesus says, you give them something to eat. And so they had to take an inventory of what they had. So among the 5,000 people, they found 5 loaves and 2 fish. Jesus blessed it, broke it, gave it to his disciples, and the disciples gave it to all the people that were sitting in groups of 100 or 50, and it fed all of them. Not only that, but they took up 12 baskets full. They took that much. There was that much left over. I mean, so much more than what they started with. And that's always true with Jesus. No matter what you start with, there's always more left over. Immediately after that, Jesus said, go in the boat and go to the other side. And he stayed behind. He dismissed the crowds, and he went up on the mountain and prayed. And from the mountaintop, he looked down and he realized, okay, I'm going to go to the other side also. But he went out and just started walking on the water. He's God. He can do that. And it said he was going to pass by the disciples. He realized that they were struggling. They had been working at these oars for a long time. They were exhausted. Now, remember, they had just rested. They had just seen a miracle. And now they're exhausted, and they're filled with anxiety. And Jesus is walking on the water, and he's going to walk by them. They thought it was a ghost. And Jesus said, look, don't be afraid. It's me. And then he got in the boat, and everything settled down. And it says the disciples were astonished because they forgot the lesson of the loaves. Now, I wrote down some interesting things about that. So we're going through crisis today in our world. There's many things going on. And as I thought about Jesus in that situation, and that was a crisis to the disciples, they thought they were going to lose their lives. Many people today in COVID-19 think they're going to lose their lives or get sick, or it's just so much fear going on. And here's a few thoughts I wrote down. Number one, during your most difficult times, remember this. Number one, God sees me. Number two, God sees my pain and my struggle. Number three, God sees what's against me. He said that he saw that the winds were against his disciples. God comes near. And God doesn't want me to be afraid. God wants me to recognize who he is in every situation. He doesn't want me to go, oh, where are you, God? Well, he was right there all the time. God is attuned to our cries. God will join us in our chaos. And God's presence causes our problems to dissipate. It happened then, it happens now. So what was the lesson of the loaves that the disciples forgot in this situation? Number one, Jesus is the bread of life. That's the true disciples. He is the source of all nutrition and all help and resources. Number 2, Jesus has all authority. That means he's in control. He's in control of the wind, of the weather. He's in control of the storms. He's in control of the sicknesses. He's in control of diseases. He's totally in control because he's been given all authority. Jesus' presence changes things. So, we're to look to Jesus and find him in every situation because he's available for the taking. Just like this bread that was given to me that is so good. Jesus is so much better. Let me encourage you during this Christmas season, don't forget the lesson of the loaves. Trust Jesus in every situation.